Sinead O'Connor had revealed that her 17-year-old son Shane had died by suicide in January 2022, which that has got to be the most heartbreaking thing in the world. They said that you were too abusive to raise kids, and then they're saying that your son, who she loved her son so much because Shane loved Sinead O'Connor unconditionally. Shane loved Sinead O'Connor unconditionally. Children love their parents unconditionally. You realize how bad a parent has to be in order to get the dislike or hatred of their children? You know how bad they got to be? My beautiful son, Nevi M. Nesta Ali Shane O'Connor, the very light of my life, decided to end his earthly struggle today and is now with God. Again, with the fucking religion. She should have rejected the religion. And I wish I was actually a part of her. It's crazy. You see folks go through this shit. I remember thinking that Chris Farley was going through shit, and it was like, man, I should reach out to him. And I've tried to reach out to people, but I mean, some people are just hard to get a hold of, especially celebrities. And then you have to like convince them that you're this or that. And it's just, I really relate to you. And I think what I would do is I would give a bunch of options. You're as happy as your options. When people kill themselves, they feel like there's no other option. They had to drink all that Windex. They had to drink all the bleach and the Windex. They had to take 20 Valium. They had to jump off that bridge. Like Naomi Judd, she had to get a gun and then blow her head off. Shane O'Connor, the very light of my life, decided to end his earthly struggle today, is now with God. May he rest in peace. May no one follow his example. God, that's so sad. My baby, I love you so much. Please be at peace. So in a follow-up post, the singer tweeted a Bob Marley song, which she decided to dedicate to Shane. This is for my Shaney, the light of my life, the lamp of my soul, my blue-eyed baby, she wrote. You always be my light. We will always be together. No boundary can separate us. The first dog I ever owned was Tecumseh, and dogs unconditionally love their masters. You can make them into a sandlot dog to where they're like breathing at the, foaming at the mouth and just being crazy and mean and growling at anybody and everybody. Tecumseh was a good dog, and I made sure that he was, good at socializing with other people, and other people were he was good at talking to them. They were good. Everybody loved Tecumseh. Everybody that met Tecumseh loved Tecumseh. But some fucking pervert, some Nazi piece of shit, right-wing piece of shit in Costilla County killed him. And there's only 5 or 10 people out there, so I suspect it's Troy Zinn, and if it's not him, I suspect he knows who did it. But nobody's saying shit. Now, apparently that's what they fucking do in Costilla County. Not only is there a whole bunch of child abuse, and there's also poaching and serial killing, but they go around and kill people's puppies. That's what Costilla County do. That's what they do. That's what they do. Sinead uploaded a photograph of Shane to her feed. She left the post uncaptioned. Sinead shared Shane, her third of 4 children, with Lonnie. Let's see. You always be my light. We will always be together. No boundary can separate us. So she's kind of saying, I'm coming with you. You had the courage to do something that I couldn't do. Why does she feel like suicide is the only way out? That makes no fucking sense. If anything, I'm fighting for Sinead O'Connor. You went through shit in the beginning. You have an arc. You can, redeem yourself. And it's not even, your mother was beating you, so you have an arc. And I guess I guess she didn't have the arc. She has 3 other kids, though, So, I don't know. Because why did Shane kill himself? He was at the fucking hospital. She hated when she went to the hospital as a teenager. Why is he at the hospital? I feel like it's hard for me to trust. I used to be the person that would defend therapy and psychologists and shit. But now it's too hard to trust institutions. Motherfuckers in institutions, it's like they want to have that option to fuck you the fuck over, and then they'll talk to you. Like, can I fuck him the fuck over? No? Well, I'm not for sure. So it's like they need the system to bring the people in, and then they get to, sit in their fucking middle-class mansions and then tell some fucking hoodlum how to live their life or how they're supposed to, now that they're stuck in the system forever. 1 week later, she was hospitalized after posting a lengthy message on Twitter earlier that day saying she had decided to follow her son. There is no point living without him, she wrote, referring to her son Shane. Everything I touch, I ruin. I only stayed for him. And now he's gone. I destroyed my family. My kids don't want to know me. In a follow-up tweet, she apologized, writing, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm with the cops now on the way to the hospital. She continued, I'm sorry I upset everyone. I'm lost without my kid, and I hate myself. Hospital will help a while, but I'm going to find Shane. This is just a delay. Man, maybe you could have delayed it for another 20 years. Death is going to get us all. You don't need to really fast forward it. It is her choice. It is her life. It is her decision. And if her pain is that bad, maybe she'll get some peace. And maybe she just feels so bad about Shane. Maybe feels like this is like justice or something, you know? And she wanted actually her mother to be a good mother. So that's what she wanted. And then she wanted to be a good mother herself. But apparently she did something. What happened? I guess we got to ask that question about Shane, because Shane didn't even reach adulthood. In interviews later in life and in her 2021 memoir, Sinead O'Connor described her mother pinning her to the floor and pummeling her while forcing her to say over and over again, "I am nothing." Not only would she just take her and punch her, pin her on the floor on her back, but she would also hit her stomach. So she was saying that it was trying to hit the uterus or hit the womb. So she didn't like that Sinead O'Connor was female. She wanted Sinead O'Connor to be a male. So she dressed her up in male clothing, and she said, subconsciously was punching her stomach, which that's a soft, spot to punch too. So it's just a really mean thing to do, right? Tell a person, lay on the ground and sit there and punch their stomach. If I'm going to like playfully punch, you want to punch where there's some meat, but punching in the stomach and then there's like a kidney shot, that's like all your organs are right there. She grew into a rebellious teenager, skipping school and stealing after she was caught shoplifting a pair of gold shoes to wear at a rock concert. A social worker suggested that a rehabilitation center might set her straight. Oh, rehab center, is that where you think? The government report in 2009 said tens of thousands of children were abused in industrial schools alone, a staggering figure in a country with barely more than 5 million people. This is in Ireland. Tens of thousands of children were abused in 2009. 5 million people at one. The Bon Secours mother and baby home in Tuam. The remains of hundreds of babies and fetuses were found in a septic tank in 2017. God damn, that was fucking 7 years ago. Hundreds of babies and fetuses? I don't even know what that fucking means. Are the Catholics against abortion? So that means you have some people who are giving abortions and they're just throwing the babies and fetuses into a septic tank, keeping it quiet, hush, hush, and why? So the priest can have babies? So the priest can... What the hell? Why are they killing so many babies? This is the pro-life fucking people, too. Oh, you're pro-life? Don't seem like it. Don't even seem like you're pro-life for the baby or the fetus. Anne Griandon also housed older women. Andrew Tate said something about that. Maybe we're being brainwashed to hate our children because, if you want to get a people to destroy themselves, get them to hate their own kids. You had that one religious sect where they didn't have kids anymore, and guess what happened to them? They all died out. Anne Griandon also housed older women who had been sent there in their youths in interviews in later years. Sinead O'Connor, who lived there for 2 years, spoke of interacting with women who were there because they had their babies taken off them or because they were sexually abused and complained and nobody believed them. One of the church's most high-profile and influential priests in the United States, Theodore E. McCarrick, was expelled from the church in 2019 and is facing sexual assault charges in 2 states. The first and only American cardinal to be criminally charged in connection with sex abuse. She also remembered being made to sleep in the garden for several weeks when she was just 8 and being refused back into the house despite her pleas. Sinead O'Connor said, "My mother was a beast. I was able to soothe her with my voice. I was able to use my voice to make the devil sleep. My mother was a very violent woman, not a healthy woman at all. She was physically, verbally, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally abusive. So abusive in every goddamn way possible. Spiritually, emotionally, sexually, psychologically, verbally, physically. One of the very traumatic things that happened to me when I was growing up was that my mother had me living in the garden. I remember living in the barn when I was 8.5, 24/7 for like a week or two. 10 days out in the garden in the dark. I still hate the dark, dusk to this day. And I'll be looking up at the only window on the side of the house where she'd have a light on, and I'd be screaming, begging her to let me in, and she wouldn't. The light would go off and the house would go dark. I remember Jim Carrey said that he used to try to make his mother laugh, and he said it was out of desperation. He's throwing himself down these steps because he just couldn't make her laugh. So it was like he had to go above and beyond in order to make her laugh. That's Sinead O'Connor's kind of saying the same thing. Desperation is getting Sinead O'Connor to sing for the devil now, sweetie. I'm tired. I'm about to go to bed now. go ahead and sing for the devil. In her memoir, Sinead O'Connor wrote that the picture she tore in half on TV wasn't just any random picture of the Pope. It was her mother's picture. It was a picture of the Pope's Mass in the Irish city of Drogheda in 1979, which he dedicated to the young people of Ireland and had drawn 300,000 worshippers. That same photograph had been the only decoration on her mother's wall, she wrote, and had looked down on them both as her mother pinned her to the floor and beat her. So when they were sitting there saying, you're nothing, say you're nothing, I'm nothing, mother, I'm sorry. And they're hitting her in the stomach and trying to beat the womb out of her. I mean, that's goddamn. How many times are you allowed to fucking go through that? I don't think one time, but she's making it sound like that was her childhood. That was like, what, years? 3 or 4 years where she's just beating her up for whatever reason? That same photograph had been the only decoration on her mother's wall, she wrote, and looked down on them both as she was being beaten. After her mother died in a car accident in 1985, she took the picture of the Pope. She took the picture of the Pope off the wall. This was in 1985. She doesn't go to SNL till 7 years later. So she took that picture and held onto that picture, determined to one day destroy it. But she wanted to destroy it in a big fashion. To her, the picture of the Pope was an object that represented lies and liars and abuse. The type of people who kept these things were devils like my mother. Sinead O'Connor wrote, I never knew when or where or how I would destroy it, but destroy it I would when the right moment came. And that's why she did that in 1992 on Saturday Night Live. It wasn't until she was 15 years of age, having been sent to a Catholic corrective institution after bouts of shoplifting and truancy and all that abuse, until she finally found her voice. Quite literally, a guitar teacher heard her singing and began nurturing her talent. At 18, she moved to London and joined a band. I just had these songs inside me that had to come out, she said at the time. Why I like performing and singing loud is because I'm quiet spoken and I'm quite withdrawn. So it's a relief to climb on the stage and scream. How? Isn't that a poem by somebody? How? I saw the best of my generation. How poem. By Allen Ginsberg. I saw the best. Let's get this how poem. Let's get this quote up here for Sinead. And I think just the first sentence actually probably, oh, it's a run-on sentence. Okay, we'll read this paragraph here. This is for Sinead O'Connor. Child abuse, yeah. Child abuse. Subhuman bondage. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn looking for an angry fix, angel-headed hipsters, burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo and the machinery of night, who poverty and tatters and hollow-eyed and high sat up smoking in the supernatural darkness of cold water flats floating across the tops of cities contemplating jazz, who bared their brains to heaven under the L, saw Muhammad angels staggering on tenement roofs illuminated, who passed through universities with radiant cool eyes, hallucinating Arkansas and Blake light tragedy among the scholars of war who were expelled from the academies for crazy and publishing obscene odes on the windows of the skull, who cowered in unshaven rooms and underwear, burning their money in waste baskets and listening to the terror through the wall, who got busted in their public beards, in their pubic beards, returning through Laredo with a belt of marijuana for New York, who ate fire in paint hotels or drank turpentine in Paradise Alley death or purgatoried their torsos night after night with dreams, with drugs, with waking nightmares, alcohol and cock and endless balls, incomparable blind streets of shuddering cloud and lightning, in the mind leaping toward poles of Canada and Patterson, illuminating all the motionless world of time below, peyote solidities of halls, backyard green tree cemetery dawns, wine drunkenness over the rooftop storefront burrows of tea-head, joyride, neon blinking traffic lights, sun and moon and tree vibrations in the roaring winter dusk of Brooklyn, ash can rantings and kind king light of mind, who chained themselves to subways for the endless ride from Battery to Holy Bronx on Benzedrine, until the noise of wheels and children brought them down shuddering, mouth racked and battered, bleak, a brain all drained to brilliance in the drear light of zoo, who sank all night in submarine light of Bickfords, floated out and sat through the stale beer afternoon in desolate fugazis, listening to the crack of doom on the hydrogen jukebox who talked continuously 70 hours from park to pad to bar to Bellevue to museum to the Brooklyn Bridge, a lost battalion of platonic conversationalists jumping down the stoops, off fire escapes, off window sills, off Empire State, out of the moon. Yakety yakking, screaming, vomiting, whispering facts and memories and anecdotes and eyeball kicks and shocks of hospitals and jails and wars. Whole intellects disgorged in total recall for 7 days and nights with brilliant eyes meet for the synagogue cast on the pavement who vanished into nowhere. Zen, New Jersey, leaving a trail of ambiguous picture postcards of Atlantic City Hall, suffering Eastern sweats and Tangerian bone grindings and migraines of China under junk withdrawal in Newark's bleak furnished room, who wandered around and around at midnight in the railroad yard, wondering where to go and went, leaving no broken hearts, who lit cigarettes in boxcars, racketing through snow towards lonesome farms, and Grandfather Knight, who studied Plotinus, Poe, St. John of the Cross, telepathy, and Bop Kabbalah, because the cosmos instinctively vibrated at their feet in Kansas, who loaned it through the streets of Idaho, seeking visionary Indian angels who were visionary Indian angels who thought they were only mad when Baltimore gleamed in supernatural ecstasy, who jumped in limousines with the Chinamen of Oklahoma on the impulse of winter, midnight street lights, small town rain, who lounged hungry and loathsome through Houston seeking jazz or sex or soup, and followed the brilliant Spaniard to converse about America and eternity, a hopeless task, and so took ship to Africa, who disappeared into the volcanoes of Mexico, leaving behind nothing but the shadow of dungarees and the lava and ash of poetry scattered in fireplace Chicago, who reappeared on the West Coast, investigating the FBI in beards and shorts with big pacifist eyes, sexy in their dark skin, passing out incomprehensible leaflets, who burned cigarette holes in their arms, protesting the narcotic tobacco haze of capitalism, who distributed super communist pamphlets in Union Square, weeping and undressing while the sirens of Los Alamos wailed them down and wailed down wall, and the Staten Island ferry also wailed, who broke down crying in white gymnasiums naked and trembling before the machinery of other skeletons, who bit detectives in the neck and shrieked with delight in police cars for committing no crime but their own wild cooking something. All right. Colorado and the myriad stolen night, who walked all night, their shoes full of blood, wept in the romance. Harlem, absolute reality, eternity. Denver, died in Denver, came back to Denver, waited in vain, who watched over Denver. CCNY with mother, finally. Oh, Carl, you're not safe. I am not safe. The madman bum and the angel beaten, time unknown, yet putting down here what might be left to say in time come after death. And rose reincarnated in the ghostly clothes of jazz and the gold horn shadow of the band, and blew the suffering of America's naked mind for love into an Eli, Lama, Sabachthani saxophone cry. There's actually two. This isn't the last fucking part. There's two goddamn sections. 3 goddamn sections. I'm with you in Rockland. I'm with you in Rockland. I'm Carl Solomon. I'm with you in Where You're Madder Than I Am with you in Rockland. Sinead O'Connor. I think you're dead, and I think you're dead and gone forever, but I think it's up to us, we the living, to keep your memory alive. And you're a great person, and you shouldn't have extinguished your own light, which you're allowed to do. You're free to do. And even if it's illegal, well, that's natural law. How can people stop that? The only way you could stop that is actually by giving her the support and love that she actually needs. And she always needed a mother, and she needed her mother to fucking act right. But nobody told her mother what to do. Nobody stood up to her mother except for her. And she barely stood up to her. And she forgave her. And then she died. And then it was like, well, you left everything unresolved. And so now she's still angry. Were you screaming in a straitjacket that you're losing the game of the actual ping pong of the abyss? I'm with you in Rockland. Were you banging on the catatonic piano? The soul is innocent and immortal. It should never die ungodly in an armed madhouse. I'm with you in Rockland, where 50 more shocks will never return your soul to its body again from its pilgrimage to a cross in the void. I'm with you in Rockland, where you accuse your doctors of insanity and plot the Hebrew socialist revolution against the fascists national Golgotha. I'm with you in Rockland, where you will split the heavens of Long Island and resurrect your living human Jesus from the superhuman tomb. I'm with you in Rockland, where there are 25,000 mad comrades all together singing the final stanzas of the Internationale. I'm with you in Rockland, where we hug and kiss the United States under our bed sheets, the United States that coughs all night and won't let us sleep. I'm with you in Rockland, where we wake up electrified out of the coma by our own souls, airplanes roaring over the roof. They've come to drop angelic bombs. The hospital illuminates itself. Imagery walls collapse. Oh, skinny legions run outside. Oh, starry-spangled shock of mercy. The eternal war is here. Oh, victory. Forget your underwear. We're free. I'm with you in Rockland. In my dreams, you walk dripping from a sea journey on the highway across America and tears to the door of my cottage in the western night. San Francisco, 1955.